Hello and welcome back to Chiefsman's Corner, the most amateur sports podcast out there for the WFL. This is the non-live version. Unfortunately, I had some scheduling conflicts for the live broadcast, so I had to move it to a recorded session. However, I will be online and around during the premiere at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight, Tuesday, to take any live comments. I am your host, one of the leadership team of the WFL, Coach Winuvas of the Los Angeles Chargers. This show will dive into our playoff picture. There will be no players of the podcast this week, folks, and a single question to answer in our Ask the Chief segment. If you're watching the recording of this, we thank you for watching. Any and all support is appreciated. Without you guys, the WFL does not exist. As usual, we got a couple of housekeeping notes. The first thing to talk about, as always, is the WFL's incentive plan. This plan allows you to get some perks that aren't available for every member simply by doing some extracurricular activities that involve WFL, anything from Twitter to articles on the Neon Sports site, or commenting or participating in this show, even chatting in Discord. All of that can earn you points. Anything that makes the WFL a more immersive experience and increases its presence in the Madden community can earn you some sort of credit. Link to the incentive plan is available using the command /incentive plan in Discord. And a quick update on that, in the /incentive plan, you can also get a link to our end of season incentive recording survey that you can make up, where you can essentially log what type of articles you've written, what type of things you're participating in, whether it's the PA, the Associated Press, whether you've done articles on Neon Sports site, things of that nature, comments, your level in Discord, things of that nature. All of that, there's a link in that incentive plan document that'll take you to that form, and that form is what you'll fill out at the end of season. I want to just make you aware of it now, so that way you're not kind of struggling to find it once your season's over with. The next thing to talk about, as always, our form Ask the Chief. The form you fill out between episodes to submit any questions you have for me, and I'll answer them during the show, giving you credit for the question. It's an easy way to build up incentive points, and it provides some extra content to the podcast. Use the command /AskTheChief to pull up the form in Discord. With the end of the season coming ever closer, in fact, as of recording this, we have just advanced to week 17. We're starting to ask folks to fill out our end of season survey. This survey is completely optional, but it does give you an opportunity to speak up on any issues you see in the WFL, both good and bad. I respond via direct message to any survey turned in, and I'm the only one who reads the surveys. I want the WFL to be a destination league, and this is one process we use to keep us moving in a positive direction. Use the custom command /WFL survey in Discord to get a link to the survey in the next few game weeks. That is all one word, /WFL survey. Finally, I won't be around next Monday. Unfortunately, I will be out of town. I will be in Chattanooga, Tennessee on vacation with the wife. We have our spring break at school next week, so we're going to get away for a few days. So I'll be out of town from Monday until Thursday. The leadership team has already been informed. I've already done my due diligence posting an autopilot section. So all that's done. If the off-season takes us into that area, I'll set myself on autopilot, and whatever happens, happens. But I will be back the following Monday, which I do believe is going to be, 14 days from the 6th to the 20th. I will be back on March 20th with a live show, hopefully talking about the playoffs we just had, the offseason we're in the middle of, or the offseason we just had, depending on how fast we go. I want to be talking about the new season. With housekeeping out of the way, let's talk some WFL playoffs as I get it pulled up here and get it up on screen for you guys. All right, here we go. So let's get it bolded up a little bit. Let's get it a little bigger so we can see. And we're going to start over on the left side with the AFC playoff race. Your Miami Dolphins and Coach Ross are the current number 1 seed at 12-3. Kansas City, as the AFC West champs, are 10-5. Cleveland Browns, AFC North champs at this point, at 10-5 as well. And the Houston Texans, glad to see that Black Hawk is doing much better with the squad than I was. He's got him at 10-5 and pretty much locking down the AFC South. You have the Jets as the number 5 seed at 11-4, so they have a potential to get up to that number 1 seed and sneak in as a division champ. As it stands now, though, they are the 5th seed. Baltimore is in the 6th slot as far as Neon Sports shows, but there's a lot of ties in that AFC North division, as every team in the AFC North is currently above 500. So that's still a dogfight with 2 weeks to go. There is no guarantee that Cleveland will stay in that 3 seed spot. They could get ousted by any of Baltimore, Pittsburgh, or Cincinnati as we move in. And then your 9 and 10 seeds are pretty much just playing for pride at this point. The Chargers and the Broncos, they actually play this week in week 17, so one of them will move to 7-9, and the other one will move to 6-10. But either way, they are very much on the outside looking in. I don't see them making any noise. The best they can do is get to 8 wins, which means they're out of the playoff picture. So there's really no point in talking about seeds 9 and 10. Let's just talk about 1 through 8. 8 teams, 7 spots. Oof, that's really tough. I could see Kobe making a last-ditch effort push, especially if they play each other in the next 2 weeks. Let's look at Miami's schedule. We'll open that up real quick and pop that on screen here. Let's get a schedule here. So they have Kansas City and Las Vegas to round out the season to the Miami Dolphins. So a winnable game, but a tough matchup against Kansas City. And a game against the Las Vegas Raiders. They may be checked out. They may be doing some, hopefully getting some draft position. Not real sure on that one, but you can see that's both are winnable games for sure for Ross going in. Let's see what the Jets look like as far as their schedule goes. Let's see what they got coming up. They got Jacksonville and Denver, so they have a user game and a CPU game left on the docket. Jacksonville, again, is a winnable game. So is Denver, obviously, as a CPU opponent. Jacksonville does have an owner, but he's kind of been busy lately, so we'll see if he actually gets a chance to play that game. We may see about just maybe doing a force sim or something of that nature, make it last week interesting. We'll see what happens. But either way, both are winnable games for both teams, so really both teams cannot afford to let off the gas pedal. I think Miami has a little bit tougher of a go with Kansas City being a threat with Travis Kelce out there. Travis Kelce, a big-time weapon for the Kansas City offense, and Pat Mahomes. New York, the Jets, I think they have a little bit easier of a time, but don't sell the Jaguars short. The one time I got to play him for a half before we got disconnected, the Jaguars owner is a pretty solid player. So be careful if you're Kobe and the Jets. Don't sleep on the Jaguars unless they don't show up to schedule with you. As far as 6, 7, and 8 seeds, fight amongst yourselves, guys. Baltimore, tough out with a new owner that is keen on running the ball with Lamar Jackson. So you got to be careful with the dual threat attack of Lamar Jackson there in Baltimore. Pittsburgh's been doing it all season with Anthony Richardson at the helm. And then, of course, Cincinnati has that weaponry with Burrow, with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, things of that nature. Those guys are just out there killing it on offense. With that being said, I think the seeds stay pretty much as they are. I don't think anybody's going to change any positions here with 2 weeks to go. I think Baltimore and Pittsburgh squeak in. I think Rustabuster's had a hell of a season, but I don't think he's going to make it. I think he's going to be outside looking in when all is said and done and kind of kicking himself when all is said and done about some games he might have had some control over and just didn't get the final gun in. But if the Bengals make the playoffs, if any of those teams in 6, 7, 8 make the playoffs, I think they could be a dangerous out for any of those teams in the top end. So you got to be careful. KC is going to be a tough team. Waffles and the Browns are going to be tough. Of course, Blackhawk is going to be tough with his Texans. He's got Pierce back. He's back there in the AFC South where he kind of feels like he belongs with him and Juke there. And he's doing a great job with Bryce Young, a guy that I drafted and moved on from when I swapped teams and let him swap to the Texans. So it's good to see that the Texans are in really good hands. I'm glad that Blackhawk is having some success with him. Glad he's got him in the 4 seed. Hopefully he does some damage with him in the playoffs. We'll find out, though. But that's the AFC. Let's move on to the NFC. The NFC has pretty much got one bell of the ball right now, and that's the Chicago Bears. 14-1. The sole loss, I do believe, was a simulated loss, I think. But either way, 14-1 is 14-1. Nothing to shake a stick at. You have the Giants and Coach Clyde, 11-4. You have the Rams and Zay at 10-5. You have Tampa Bay bringing up the rear of the division winners at 9-6, with Tampa Bay. And you have Philly, Washington, and Green Bay sitting in driver's sections of the wild card spots at 10-5, all three of those teams respectively. So a very similar setup, kind of, to the AFC playoff race. The difference is there's a couple of extra spots here that are available. Definitely that 8 and 9 spots are definitely not something you should let up on. In the AFC, it's pretty much 8 teams in. Right now in the NFC, it's 9 teams potentially could get in. You have Detroit and Atlanta knocking on the doorstep. Now, Detroit and Atlanta have to win out and hope for some help there from 5, 6, and 7 to drop some games. But if Detroit and Atlanta can win out and any of those teams in 5, 6, and 7 let their foot off the gas pedal, that could bring the Detroit Lions and the Atlanta Falcons into the playoffs. We do have a new owner in Green Bay. Emperor, our former Titans owner, took over the Green Bay Packers as a lifelong fan, so he's taken them over. He's got a rough patch coming up in week 16 and 17. He plays the CPU Panthers, and he plays those Atlanta Falcons. So one of those potential things where Atlanta could need a win to get into the playoffs, and they have a team that they can beat in the Green Bay Packers to potentially get in the playoffs. But Atlanta's got to take care of business week 17 before they look to week 18. So let's take a look-see at Atlanta's schedule real quick. We know they have Green Bay at week 18. They have Tampa Bay week 17. That's a real tough matchup. You've got the division champs sitting right there. But the potential, with the possibility of jumping maybe into the 4 spot because of the fact that they are in the AFC South, or the NFC South. You got Tampa Bay, Atlanta tied in record, so that's a crucial divisional matchup. And unfortunately, both those teams need the win to stay in the playoff hunt, and only one of them is going to get it unless they tie. So that's going to be a really, that's a playoff game atmosphere in Week 17. That's something you like to see there in Atlanta. So if Atlanta can make it through Tampa Bay, they get into the 4 spot, and then that game with Green Bay becomes a little bit less commonplace, but you still want to win because Tampa Bay is only going to be a game behind you with a game to play. Let's see what Tampa's schedule looks like going in, because that's kind of important as well. Let's see what Tampa plays after Atlanta. They have the Tennessee Titans, who's the CPU game. So it's one of those things as Atlanta, you hopefully want to win and then win against Green Bay to kind of sneak into the playoffs and keep Tampa Bay out. If Tampa Bay gets in, they are a dangerous force. Kendro and that Tampa Bay squad can do some damage in the playoffs, even at a 9-6 record. You have Zay, who's always kind of a threat in the playoffs. With Stafford and with that Aaron Donald and that ferocious pass rush, he uses the defensive end really well there in LA. But Philly and Cheske, he's good as well. Obviously, Remster's good in Washington. But then you got Polio just sitting on the outside in Detroit, who's hungry for a playoff spot. There's a lot of good teams in the NFC. One of them, unfortunately, or 2 of them are going to be sitting out and watching the playoffs. You hate to see it with a division that's 9 teams deep, but unfortunately that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes in a really top-end NFC playoff race there. Obviously, Chicago's the belle of the ball. They've got first round locked up as far as a bye, but any of those teams, Clyde, Zay's a former WFL Bowl champion. Kendro's made it deep in the playoffs. I believe Cheske has made it a little bit in the playoffs. Remster's made some noise in the playoffs. Obviously, we have a new owner taking over Green Bay, so we'll see what happens with Emperor there. I know his track record of the Titans was not the greatest, but he's got his team now, so maybe his team will give him a spark and give him a little bit of offensive and defensive creativity he needs to get some W's on the board and maybe get running with Green Bay and putting them as a threat in the NFC North. But as I see it right now, obviously Chicago's in. I feel like the Giants are in. There's no real challenge in their division right now. Other than Washington and Philly being a game behind them. So there's a lot of, just like with the AFC with the North, apparently the NFC, the East, 3 out of 4 teams are fighting in here. You got 2 teams from the North, or 3 teams from the North, excuse me. You only have 1 team from the West right now, and you only have really 1 team from the South, but the second team, the Falcons team, is knocking on the door. And if they can win this week against Tampa Bay, they're in the driver's seat going into Week 18. So definitely a playoff game atmosphere for Atlanta. If they can win Week 17, they pretty much control their destiny. Detroit has to win and hope for some help. I don't know. Let's see who Detroit plays. Who does Detroit have on the docket? I may have already looked at this, and if I have, I do apologize. We have Pittsburgh and we have Kansas City. That is not an easy matchup to have to go into. At Pittsburgh, Chilkey is really a tough customer, especially with Anthony Richardson at the helm. Likes to throw those deep balls, so the Lions secondary will have to be on high alert there. And then you have Week 18 against the Chiefs and Travis Kelce, once again, a team that's in the playoffs. Maybe they kind of relax their laurels because they're guaranteed a playoff spot, so maybe the Lions can sneak up on them. But Pittsburgh's going to be a tough out, and KC's going to be a tough out as well. Everybody's looking to win in this league. So with that being said, Detroit's got a tough way to get in. They have to win and hope for some help, and the winning part might be the tougher part of that too, other than the help. I could see them getting some help from Green Bay, maybe from Washington. Let's see Washington's final schedule here as well while we've got it all pulled up and looking nice and neat here. Let's see what they have. They have New England CPU team, and then they have Philly. So essentially one of those teams is going to get knocked down a peg between the Eagles and the Commanders. I almost said Redskins. I may have said Redskins already. So this will change a little bit. If Detroit can eke out some wins, if Atlanta can eke out some wins, I can see Atlanta sneaking into a wild card spot and one of these 2 teams in Philly and Washington losing a spot. just with the way the schedule's flowing this last 2 weeks of the season. It's going to be a dogfight. I think if you're really interested or really want to tune into some games, I would definitely tune into any sort of Falcons games, Lions games, Commanders games, Eagles games, and then obviously in the AFC side, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, watch you some AFC North action. I feel like those teams are going to really be really just bruising each other up or bruising their opponents up, trying to get to that 7th spot, get those 6 and 7 spots locked up so they can get into the playoffs. Because once you get in, anything can happen. So with that being said, let's go ahead and go to our Ask the Chief segment. We have one question on the docket, so only one thing to review today. So we have a short segment for Ask the Chief, and that is, as I get zoomed in here, let's see. Waffle sends in, what is the most impressive thing this season in the WFL? Well, that's an interesting question. The most impressive thing, I think the fact that we're still getting majority of our games in, honestly. We restarted, obviously, at the beginning of January with the whole debacle with EA shitting on our servers and shitting on our files. We restarted. We tried to do it. We did a draft to get some real-life rookies into the mix, real life being some created rookies we downloaded as a draft class that I downloaded, so that way we could have some real-life rookies so we could get a little bit of have a little pizzazz going into this restart, which is the 3rd restart we've done this cycle. It's quite aggravating. I think the fact that we have, at this point, we have 23 owners. I know if you look on on the Madden app, it says 24, but somebody has, Ross has his secondary user on the Cardinals team right now. So we technically have 23 users. The fact that we have that many users that are still being active and still playing games is phenomenal, I feel like. I know we're not going to get any more between now and the end of the cycle. If we do, it'll be a miracle. But I think we have a really, really solid group. I feel like that's the most impressive thing, is honestly the fact that guys are still willing to play games, still willing to chit chat, even though we're currently in March. Usually by now it's pulling teeth to get guys to be active. And in some cases, we've seen activity drop a little bit, and that's just understandable. It's part of the cycle, especially this cycle with Madden, again, taking a shit on our file. But to see that many guys still be active, still play games at the very bare minimum, and still some of them doing articles, doing content for the Wheat Neon Sports site, that bodes well for Madden 24 and beyond for WFL. I think having a core ownership that we have, I think we'll have probably about 20 to 21 guys that'll return for WFL in Madden 24. I've heard talk that some guys are going to step aside after this cycle because they're burnt out, and believe me, I understand. I'm on the fence myself. I've already put that out there multiple times, but I am on the fence as well. I'm on the fence of, at the very least, I'm not paying for Madden. So, I mean, Madden's going to have to give me the game for free for me to play. I'm at that point where I'm not giving, and I've said this again, this is not anything brand new. This is not any breaking news. I'm not going to pay a red penny to EA for this game. They don't deserve any of my money anymore. I'm not doing it. So unless we have some kind of drive where get a code for me, or get together and PayPal me some cash to do it, which I'm not advocating for. I don't want it. I've had guys offer to do it, and I'm like, you can if you want to, but I'm not going out there and accepting it. I'm not going to advocate for it. But I'm telling you right now, I'm not putting any money into this game, and I don't blame anybody that doesn't either. But as far as impressiveness goes, having 23 owners that are still pretty much gung-ho, or not gung-ho, but for the most part are still active and in there. Like I said, there's probably, of the 23 owners, there's probably, I'd say about 19 to 20 that are still pretty active. We have a couple of guys that are on the fence activity-wise that we may end up ultimately moving on from here shortly, depending on what goes on in the off-season and things of that nature. But I think activity is solid, and I think at the very bare minimum we have a really, really, really good core going into Madden 24 that understand our rule set, understand our mentality, understand our motto, and that's heartwarming. I mean, I think right now I've been doing WFL since, well, except for the time off. I've been doing WFL. I did it for a spell from Madden 12 to Madden 13 or 14. I didn't run WFL 1.0 that very long. And then WFL 2.0 technically started with Madden 16 and ran to Madden 20. And then took that 21 off, came back for 22 in another league, OMFL, and then started at the end of 22 cycle. We started WFL and basically kind of ran whole hog this year. I think in all those iterations, this is probably the best core of 16 to 20 guys that we've ever had. We've never had this many guys this dedicated to the league ever. So thank you to those guys that are, going, putting nose to the grindstone and wanting to be here and wanting to contribute and wanting to keep WFL going. Like I said, if it wouldn't be for you guys, pretty much to a man, saying we want to play after, the file corruption issue, I wouldn't be doing a podcast right now because I'd be enjoying my day off and not worrying about Madden. But here we are, and it's totally because of you guys. And if you guys didn't want it, we wouldn't do it. So that's all for you guys. So thank you to that core because you guys wanted it, and that's what we did. So I'm pleased with the core. I'm excited about potential what Madden 24 has to offer for our community, even if it doesn't offer us any new features, which, let's be honest, it probably won't. I know they talk a good game, but they always talk a good game. And regardless of articles and things that I've seen online about Madden 24 is a make or break year for leadership, sure, whatever. Seen this song and dance before, guys. It's the same song and dance we've seen before. We saw it in Madden 20. Fix Madden franchise. Oh, franchise is important. We're going to fix it. What have they done in 3 years? Hardly anything. They did one thing, maybe two. It's just EA. EA's shit company. EA puts out a shit product, and unfortunately we have to deal with it because nobody else can do anything about it. So, I sincerely hope that WFL is around in Madden 24. Whether I'm involved or not, I hope it's around because I think it's a great concept for a league. I think it's got great rule set. I think it's got great, unique things that make it unique. Our off-season program, our how we handle our off-season, how we do our business, the PA system that we have in place to kind of prevent, for the most part, leadership just kind of going gung-ho and ruling with an iron fist. I feel like we limit, if not eliminate, a lot of that. There's a lot of things here that's good, and I'd hate to see it just kind of go by the wayside because one person isn't around. And like I said, if I can stomach it and get a hold of Madden 24 somehow, I'll be a part of this. But I'm definitely not. I'm gonna have to lie, cheat, and steal to get it because I'm not paying for it. So EA done burned their bridge one too many times. I'm tired of trying to cross the bridge. I just am. Sorry. Speak it like I feel it. That being said, I think that really answered the question and brought it to a downer note. Really, I'm really hoping that we can finish out. I know last podcast I talked we could potentially get 2 seasons. I feel like realistically we'll get 1 season in. And if this is the last season coming up that we do, not this season that we're finishing up, but the season after this, if that's the last one for this cycle, be aware that we will attempt to do it again. Those of you that are around for Madden 22, the last draft, we did a rookie carryover draft. That will be part and parcel for the course here as well. We will do a rookie carryover where if you're around and you're on the team that you want to be for Madden 24, any player you draft or any player drafted to a team will pull to a spreadsheet that's a rookie, and essentially they will be eligible. One player will be eligible to be carried over into the new Madden. And we'll create him in the game. We'll add him to the roster. We'll make sure he's got all his attributes and everything all set up and sorted. But that's part of the game plan as well. So even if you'd be disappointed by the news that, hey, we might only get one more season after this one in play, be excited about the fact that last season, at the end of it, we'll still be just as pumped for the draft as we usually are, because any of those players are eligible for carryover, and I think that'll make it a lot of fun going forward, drafting somebody that you can take with you to the team in Madden 24 and hopefully strengthen and bolster a perceived weakness that you have on your team. So with that being said, let's get to the important stuff. Let's get to the outro, man. Let's just get to the outro, right? Thank you guys for tuning in, whether live or with the recording. Obviously, we're not live today. That's what I get for writing a script. Thank you for tuning into the recording, whether you're watching it as it premieres or whether you're watching it after the fact. I appreciate it. The WFL appreciates it, and we hope that this is an entertaining show. Let us know by throwing us a like, a subscribe, or leaving any comments, good or bad. Any feedback is always appreciated. Until after my spring vacation, folks. It's going to be 2 weeks, so you won't see me next Monday, but you'll see me the Monday after. Corner's closed, guys.